I noticed this game getting quite a bit of flack. Lots of flack. For being this janky, messy little game of a game here. But honestly, well, you're kind of right with that. But there are a lot of things that I really appreciated in this, almost to the point that I would say it's like a 7 out of 10 quality game here. And trust me, the 3 points that it loses is entirely gameplay related. Although, no, maybe 1 point is story related. I enjoyed this. I did. It had a rocky start. Maybe like, I would give this maybe like 5 sections. 5 stages, I think. We have the main stage, we have World War II, we have Crusaders, we have Rome, and then we have the final places. So 5 stages. So out of the 5, 1 stage is rough, and that is the first stage, where you are locked to playing as only one character, who has an assault rifle with a shotgun side piece, and no powers except to revive fallen squad mates. You can't switch squad mates. If you die and Rollins gets knocked out as well, we're going to talk about who he is, then you basically get a game over. After this first chapter, in the next 4 chapters, you have a much better quality here. You could switch between any of your 6 remaining squad mates, and if 5 people go down, if there's 1 person left, you can still stay in the game. Even if Rollins goes down, you can still stay in the game. Why? Because the character that you played as in the first chapter, Ross, ends up losing his body at the end of the chapter, but then he becomes a ghost that can possess the bodies of the 6 remaining squad mates, so that he can use his resurrection powers to bring back other fallen party members, or just keep use the powers of the character that you're controlling. So let's talk about the characters first. The characters are, we have 7 main characters. 1 is Ross, who is the military man. He's the big military man who has the powers of healing. He's not necessarily believing in all this superstitious hoo-ha until pretty late in his military career, where he was transferred to the Department of Occult Warfare, which all of this lore in Clive Barker's Jericho is fantastic. I can't really give this game enough praise for its lore. I wanted to know more. Every step of the way, every sentence of lore that was spoken by any character, I wanted to know 10 more sentences of lore. You could tell that there is a big story here that the game made into a big mess. And I don't know if there's a licensing issue here where Clive Barker was unable to make a book version of this. Like, all by himself, he could just make a book adaptation of Jericho, make his trilogy that way. I would have honestly preferred he do that, to be honest with you. I would have loved to see a book version of Jericho and have the sequels that he intended to make with this, because I believe this was intended to be a trilogy. It was. But going a little bit off topic there, Ross is just a healer character. You could heal characters who have fallen with Ross's powers, but otherwise he has no big offensive abilities or capabilities whatsoever. He's just there for support and giving commands. And the other 6 are far more interesting. Let's talk about those. The next one is Black. Abigail Black, is the sniper. She has a sniper rifle that is her main weapon, and she has a grenade launcher barrel underneath her sniper scope, her sniper barrel. So that's your 2 type of weapons there, your main weapon, your alt weapon. The main weapon is the sniper rifle. The alt weapon is the grenade launcher. And she has 2 psychic powers. The first power is telekinesis, and about halfway through the game, her telekinesis ability adds pyromancy to it, so that when she uses a telekinetic push ability, that she can also light people on fire when she pushes them back. That's pretty good. And the telekinesis is mainly used when an enemy gets too close for her sniper rifle to do too much action. So she uses the telekinetic push to push the enemy back so that she can get a shot off at them. It's pretty good. And you can use the telekinetic push while you're aiming down the scope of your sniper rifle. You just have to press the L1 button, and she'll use telekinetic push to push them back so you can get another shot out at them. It's a pretty damn good, useful ability. And her other ability is even more useful. It's called the Ghost Bullet. The Ghost Bullet, you press R1 and you could fire a Ghost Bullet that you could control. Kind of like the Visibomb weapons from the Ratchet and Clank games, where you could fire off a weapon, you could control where it's going to go, you could steer it, oh, the enemy's over here, so you could fire it and steer it and have it hit him. It's pretty much like that. You can hit multiple enemies at the same time, I believe up to 3. It's a very useful weapon, and yeah, I loved it. There is a cooldown each time you use the Ghost Bullet, so you can't just spam it unless you put in a cheat code, which we're going to talk about those as well. The next character is Church. I forget, Billy Church. She was one of those characters that the studio changed a fair bit. Games at the time, pretty big Ninja Gaiden type of games are coming out, very big popular stuff at this point in time, and I guess they wanted to turn Billy into a kind of like a Ninja Gaiden type of character, because her original design looked nothing like the design that we have currently in the game, and her powers in the game with her new redesign are extremely useful and very fun. They're just not what Clive Barker originally intended, so I do feel like I need to bring that up. The original version of Billy was probably more country, tomboyish character, rather than the character that we have, which is more of a ninja character. Her main powers are blood magic. You can use the R1 button to create a sort of like a little blood orb that sends out tendrils to freeze enemies. And the idea is, with the character of Church, is to go in like melee, get up close and personal with your katana and take the enemies out. The katana by itself is kind of weak, so if you just run up to an enemy who is not like paralyzed by your blood magic and try to use your katana, you're gonna have to swing it about 5 to 6 times to take that enemy out. However, if you press the R1 button and that enemy is paralyzed by the tendrils from Church's blood magics, then you can walk right up to the enemy and swing your katana, and it will take them out in one hit. That's how you're able to just get up close and personal, just wade through all these enemies. That's the way to do it, basically. It won't work on the bigger enemies, unfortunately, but it will work on flyers, but you can't really slice those guys with your katana. You're going to have to use long range. And Billy has a submachine gun that she can use. It's not that strong. It's just something to use in a pinch when you can't really get up close and personal and you want to at least take some pot shots at an enemy far away. Use the submachine gun. Next character is Delgado. Delgado is the squad heavy. Delgado has access to Gatling gun, big heavy weapons expert, and he's got a single pistol sidearm. The pistol is weak, but it's there if you run out of ammo for your minigun, basically. The minigun is very fun to use. It's got 1,000 rounds, and you can just let it loose on anything and mow down most enemies pretty quickly. His 2 powers are, you press L1 to make a fire shield, so that you can protect yourself against fire damage, and the R1 is setting loose a fire spirit called Agnili to go out and hit an enemy from afar, and it can fly around and hit multiple enemies before returning. So while Agnili is out there, you cannot use the minigun, unfortunately, so you're gonna have to pick one or the other. I primarily just stuck with the minigun because it was far more effective, and I could hit and change targets very quickly, because there's going to be a lot of enemies out at the same time, and Agnili is going to be hitting one person, but you need to keep another enemy away, and Agnili's over there, and you can't protect yourself. So yeah, you gotta pick and choose when to use Agnili. Unfortunately, the one thing I need to mention about Delgado is he is not tanky. He may be the heavy, classified the heavy. He should have far more HP, like he should be able to tank far more damage before he goes down. Unfortunately, he has the same amount of HP pool as every other character, which is one of the gameplay problems. There's a lot of problems gameplay-wise with this game, and this is one of them. Delgado should have been a little bit more tanky. The next character to talk about is Rollins. Rollins is more of the healer. He's the medic. He has 2 pistols. You could change your pistol ammo between one of 3 types. There's the standard issue pistol fire, there's explosive ammo, and there's the third one that I never used. I can't remember what it is. I think it's kind of like a shotgun type of thing. I don't know. I can't remember. I never used it. I rarely ever used Rollins, mainly because Rollins is a healer. If you are playing as a different character and one of your squad mates who isn't Rollins gets incapacitated, Rollins will go and bring them back. He will go and heal them so that you don't have to go do that. If you're playing as Rollins, then both you, who is basically Ross possessing the other 6 characters, and Rollins are in the same body. Therefore, if one of your squad mates gets incapacitated, you yourself have to stop attacking an enemy and go bring that character back. So that's why I barely ever played as Rollins. I let the computer use Rollins so that he can bring back characters who get incapacitated so that I didn't have to always have to do that. And that really is a detriment to Rollins' usefulness as playing as him, because, well, if somebody goes down, you have to bring them back. Rollins is the medic. He's not really made to be the physical attacker. That's a problem with the character, basically. Up next, we have Cole. I really like Cole. I was very sad to see what happened to her at the very end of the game. Story-wise, all these characters, there's so much lore with this stuff that I'd have to, well, I have to basically write out the script for this video instead of just going off the top of my head. There's so much lore with all these characters, and you do have to do a lot of annoying crap to unlock their data log entries. Let me pause on talking about Cole for a second to rant about this for a minute. This game has a crap ton of lore, but it doesn't really do trophies. You know, like when you're or if you're an Xbox fan or a PC fan, it's called achievements. It doesn't really do those. What it has instead is called the Extras menu. And in the Extras menu, there's basically character portraits and enemy portraits that give you story and lore and background of the world and the place that you're in. And you have to do a lot of annoying crap to unlock these data entries for these characters to learn about them. For example, if you want to learn about Abigail Black, you have to do a lot of crap. I think like snipe 50 heads with the ghost bullet or something, and that will unlock Abigail Black's data entry so that you can read about her characters. You can read about her backstory, her personality, and I believe Clive Barker wrote all of that stuff, because that's part of the most interesting part of this game, is its story, is its lore, is the setting, everything about the atmosphere and where you're going and what you're doing as you're exploring the game, learning about the characters and their dynamics and their interactions with each other. Pretty much all of that is from Clive Barker and his story writing and all that stuff. That's the most interesting parts here. This game is not horror. It's not really horror. I would say it's about as horror as Fear was. You know, Fear, or probably more like Doom 3. Doom 3 wasn't scary at all. You had a bunch of weapons and you can mow down anything that got in your way. That's basically what Jericho was like. The atmosphere is horror, but you have a bunch of weapons to mow down anything that gets in your way. And that's what I like. I like a horror atmosphere, but give me some weapons to protect myself. Because, you know, I don't like being powerless or loss of control. I'm a control freak with this type of stuff. So give me some weapons and let me mow down the demons. It is very fun. Very fun for me. The atmosphere is really what I really liked. The engine, the graphics engine, doesn't really get to show you too much about the world and the potential that this world could have had, because, you know, the development cycle wasn't that long at all. The development cycle for this game is roughly a development cycle for a PS1 title. So, for a PS3 title, that is very short. It did not have enough time to give you the absolute true potential that this game could have had. and they basically rushed it out. The ending was rushed. So much crap was just rushed. I hated that. Getting back to Cole, Cole is the youngest member of the team. She is the specs, the technical expert. She's the youngest, but she's also the smartest. She speaks rapid fire dialogue, and she basically refers to herself as like a unit, like a unit of data. And she like basically says, "I'm downloading ammunition for everybody." She's basically like using mathematics and chaos theory and all sorts of stuff to warp reality, to change the reality you're living in, to change things. She can use temporal loops to slow down time, and she could run fast, kind of like the Quicksilver character in the X-Men movie. That idea where everything was slowed down, but he can move for normal speed. That's basically what her temporal slowdown is. You can use that for a short period of time to get off pot shots at weak points on fast-moving characters. She's very useful. She just can't really do a lot of damage. Her weapon is a submachine gun, but it's not that powerful at all. She can fire grenades, but they're not that great. They're not that controlled. You just throw them, and you just have to pray that the enemy stays where you threw the grenade. Because if they move even an inch, they're not taking damage. That's a problem. I wish there were sticky grenades, honestly. I really wish there were sticky grenades. You could throw the grenade, if it hits an enemy, it sticks to them and then blows up. That would be much better, having sticky grenades instead of just having it bounce on the ground and blowing up and not being useful at all. So that's something there. The final character is Jonesy. Jones is basically Ross, character-wise, model-wise. When you're exploring the map and fighting in the first chapter of the game using the rifle and the shotgun underbarrel on your weapon, that's the exact same weapons that Jones has. And Jones's special ability is astral projection. So you can use astral projection to have his spirit leave his body to possess a spirit far away, an enemy spirit or something, so that you can use it to kind of like open locked doors from a faraway lever that's in a room that you can't get into. So you go and you see some tortured soul stuck on the wall far away. You use astral projection to attach to that soul and use that soul to look around to find the lever, and use telekinesis to activate the lever to open the gate that you're stuck behind. It's pretty fun that way. It is kind of janky trying to control the camera when you're doing this. They could fix that a little bit and make that a little bit easier, but Jonesy's pretty fun. I like him. Personality-wise, let's talk about some personalities. The character personalities for all of these characters are very interesting. Their banter is very fun. Ross is very much the jargon military leader. He's very effective. He's not insane like half of the team. And there's a lot of dark storytelling here, like with Billy's character, with Delgado's character, Black's character, and Cole's character. Pretty much 4 of your 7 squad mates have had terrible backgrounds growing up, because psychics, witches, in this universe, they're real, but they are definitely discriminated against. Definitely. Billy grew up in Tennessee in a cult, essentially, some backwoods cult, and she was definitely not having a good time. So when she was picked up out of some sort of a mental institute or something, when she was picked up out of there by Rollins, she had to undergo a lot of behavioral therapy to basically get her mind back up into functioning order. She has a lot of dissociative fugues. She has so much stuff that really hurts you to read about, but it just makes the character all the more interesting, all the more fascinating, all the more dimensional, all the more real. And I really liked that the writing for these characters is that interesting. Delgado was like a chemist, shaman type of character. He was very spiritual with the Native American stuff. I can't remember which tribe he got associated with, but he's part mestizo and part, I think it's Chickasaw. He's part mestizo and part Chickasaw, and he got really into the shamanism and spiritualism stuff, and he generally believes that the fire spirit that is attached to his arm, that you can use in combat, is actually the spirit of one of his culture's deities, which is pretty fun, pretty interesting lore-wise to look at. I really enjoyed learning about that for that character. Abigail Black was the daughter of some big hunter dude out in the backwoods. He wanted a son. What he got was a tomboy instead. And she underwent a lot of abuse by her father until one day, after a big, terrible, traumatic, abusive section, Abigail's powers, her telekinetic powers, went crazy. And it paralyzed her father, and she went in, and she escaped as soon as she could. She joined the army as soon as she could to get away from her family, and she's been in the army ever since. She's basically army brat, born and raised, I think as early as she could, 18, maybe even younger. But she just had to get away, and the army was the best way for her to get away from her family. And when her powers got noticed by the Department of Occult Warfare, they brought her into Jericho team, because that's what this is. Jericho is the Jericho team of 7 psychics that are going into this place. We're going to talk about the lore a little bit more. This is going to be a long video, folks. A long video. There's a lot here that I want to talk about. But yeah, the background with Black's character is very heartbreaking as well, and it just broadens and makes their personalities so interesting to learn about and so interesting to see on display. The way they talk to each other, they're dynamic with one another. The fact that Black is a control freak is a core component to the manifestation of her psychic powers. Being a control freak is actually part of her telekinesis. She needs to be in control of her reality. She needs to be in control of herself, in control of the squad, in control of everything. That's why her telekinesis is basically able to take control of things, pick things up, move them, break down doors that are locked, and it's all very fascinating. Her control freak ability is also with the ghost bullets, so she can actually literally control the bullets that she fires to hit her targets, but she needs them to hit her targets. Her desire for control manifests in her psychic abilities, and I really appreciated that attention to detail. It just really makes me appreciate each and every one of these characters, and I just really wish this was in a better game, because the story needs a better game. It deserves a better game. If any game would have gotten a remake, it needs to be Jericho. Clive Barker's still around. Bring him back in. Get a different company in here. Get a different company. Remake the game. Make it worth playing. Fix that ending, especially, and get that sequel going, or maybe even just make it a big, longer game, because you can beat this game in about 5 to 6 hours. You can beat the story in about 5 to 6 hours, and that's very disappointing to me. It really is. If you don't die at all, and you just run through the gauntlet of the game, you could probably beat it in about 4 to 5 hours. If you die a lot, it might double the length, because, you know, you're dying a lot. You're redoing sections of the game over and over and over again, learning the route, learning the enemies, learning their weaknesses, learning how to do it, learning the tactics, which I really do like. This is a wave shooter type of game, which is kind of like a budgetary constraint type of thing. There's not too many enemy variations or enemy varieties. So what you have to do is basically learn how to get through the room, how to get through the waves, how to get through all this stuff. Each character can take out an enemy type easier than others. Now, other characters can take out any enemy in due time, but it's just more effective with certain characters. For example, when you get to Rome, you're going to fight legionnaires, and these guys have huge shields that are bulletproof. They will tank all of your weapons. Even Delgado's minigun will not do anything to these shields. So the best character to use most effectively against the Roman legionnaires is Billy Church. Use Billy, have Billy walk right up to the Roman Legionnaire, use her blood magic to use the paralytic tendrils attack, and the tendrils will paralyze the enemy, and the enemy will be forced to lower his shield, and then you can use Church's katana to take out the Legionnaires in one hit. The best way, these Legionnaires are melee fighters. They can throw their spears like long-ranged, yes, but they are melee. So the best person to use against a melee character is a melee character. So Billy Church works perfectly here. And of course, for the flyers, there are 2 characters that are best used here. 3 technically. They're very effective, and the other 3 are not as effective. The 3 that are effective against flyer enemies are Black, Church, and Delgado. Now, Church is more useful when teamed up with another character. Church's ability for her blood magic tendrils can freeze a flyer in space so that the flyer can't fly around. And then the idea is to switch from Church to either Black or Delgado or even Jones, and have them attack this flyer that is now frozen in place. And then there's Delgado, who could just fire the minigun like crazy at a flyer, and he will be able to mow them down eventually, because the amount of bullets coming out per second with that minigun is really fast. He'll be able to attack, get quite a few bullets in before that flyer flies to another position. And Jones says fully automatic with his rifle, he could do quite a bit of damage as well, just not as much damage as the minigun. Black's sniper rifle, the grenade launcher attachment especially, can take out a frozen tendril flyer, but you don't want to miss with the grenade launcher ammo, because even though Cole can download new ammunition for you, your secondary weapons ammo will not replenish. That will only replenish at checkpoints or when you get into a new section of the level, a new section of the game. A new section basically means when you pass through a section, you're going to get a little icon that says saving. The screen fades to black. You get a new screen showing up with some little typewriter sound effects giving you some lore of the next area you're about to go into. And then it says press start, and you press start, you're in the next area. When you go through those little transitions, your ammo is going to be fully replenished, your secondary and your main ammo. Your main ammo replenishes when you're close to running out regardless. And I actually kind of do like this, is that ammunition gets depleted by the AI as well. For example, if you are using primarily Delgado and you're going through half of the level and you decide to switch to Abigail Black, the sniper rifle lady, and you switch to her, you'll find that half her ammunition is gone, because it's logical. She's firing during the level as well. So everybody's ammo will be depleting at different rates depending upon how active they are in combat. And it just perfectly makes sense. And so when most of your squad is running out of main ammo, Cole will download new ammo. Not a lot of ammo, but enough for a couple more clips of ammo. So if you keep firing willy-nilly as the main character, if you keep firing willy-nilly, and you will run out of ammo, and the rest of your squad still has plenty, Cole will not just download new ammo for one character. You have to be sparingly with your ammo for each character. This is very tactical, so you have to use tactics between your characters, because yes, in certain areas you're going to need to use certain characters. You're going to need to read the environment, you're going to need to read the dialogue that people are saying. So I do recommend turning subtitles on if you can't hear what people are saying, because you need to read that. Rollins might give you some sort of advice saying, Billy, get over there, which means you're going to need to switch to Billy Church to go do something, because all the other characters are not going to be equipped to do this certain section. And for example, in the Crusader area, you're going to be fighting this big, giant, masked behemoth thing, and you're going to have to destroy each sigil. Every character can deal enough damage to each sigil on this giant mask that this behemoth is wearing, but only Billy can deal the finishing blow. So you'll have to use Billy Church to go in there and have her take that out. What else? What else do we have here? Let's talk about some of the lore. This is going to get really Gnostic here. That is Gnostic, Gnostic. Well, I've talked about Gnosticism, at least from a certain point of view, in the Xeno saga, in the Evangelion, though I got quite a bit wrong with the Evangelion thing. That was before I learned quite a bit more about Gnosticism. What I know now about Gnosticism is different from what I used to know, and I still don't know a lot. I'm not this big academic when it comes to Gnosticism, but what I know from this is able to be explained in the game itself. And what they're pulling from is that there's this big deity man, the big man in the sky. He makes the firstborn, And the firstborn is imperfect. It is a prototype of life. It is neither male or female, and it's too powerful, and it gets too angry, it gets too dark. And so, instead of destroying this thing, because, it's like, why not, this is a mistake, let me destroy this thing. Well, instead of doing that, the big man in the sky decides, I'm just going to seal this thing away. And this is where my sarcastic side is going to come out. It's like, you're the big man, you created this vast universe, this big, vast universe, thousands, millions, billions of planets and stars. It's like, this is a very dangerous, dark little entity. Where should I put this thing? Should I put this hidden under the ground in some sort of ethereal place on the very planet where I'm going to put my next experiment of life on? Or should I put this thing in the depths of space, far away from this planet that I'm going to focus on? Should I put this thing on the other side of the universe, in the dead center of a dead planet in a dead solar system that nobody's ever going to visit, and it's going to be left dormant for thousands and millions and billions of years? No, I'm going to put it under the earth. I'm going to put it under the earth so that it's going to try to get my humans that I'm going to make. It's going to try to convince the humans to let my creation free. So, I'm a big brain there. No, but that's part of the story. So I'm going to let that go. It's part of the story that this thing has to come out, try to get released. So we have to put it on Earth. He has to put it on Earth so that he can try to convince the humans to let it free. So that, yeah, this creature, the firstborn, this deity-like, dark, evil thing, is sealed on planet Earth somewhere. And the year 3000 BC, the history's not perfect. Clive Barker's not a historian, so I'm going to give him some credit here. 3000 BC, the Sumerian civilization, there's a priestess that hears the call of the firstborn, and so she gets thousands, tens of thousands of her followers to follow her out into the desert, in the middle of nowhere, really. And they build this massive, sprawling, beautiful metropolis city in the year 3000 BC, and they called it Al-Khali. And it ends up being a very fulcrum point for many periods of civilization, tons of civilization periods, the dominant civilizations of the planet, from Khan to Alexander to Rome. Everybody comes here at some point in time. And the firstborn's going to try to convince somebody from this civilization to try to let him out. And this time, in 3000 BC, he tries to convince this priestess to let him out. And they let him out. But thankfully, 7 warrior psychics infiltrated this priestess's army. And I think her name was Ereshkigal. And that's actually a real name. That's actually a real thing from history. But I don't think it's used as accurately here. But at least it's a real name. So Ereshkigal. You can look that up if you want. But yeah. So, Ereshkigal tries to release the firstborn, but 7 psychics who infiltrated her army stop her. 6 of the 7 get captured or attacked or killed or corrupted, but one of the 7 does manage to imperfectly seal the firstborn away. But each time the firstborn is sealed away, he takes part of Earth with him into his domain. And this time he takes the heart of the metropolis of Al-Khali into his domain. What does that mean? Well, it kind of gets very confusing, so I'm going to have to try to tell this story in segments to try to make this make a little bit of sense. So roughly about 3,000 years later, in about like 43 AD, during the decay and rot of the Roman Empire, during the reign of Caligula. Again, I don't know if Caligula reigned during 43 AD, or if it was before that, or after that. Either way, it was during the 1st century AD. Apparently Caligula's in charge, from what Jones says in the story, and This is the furthest reaches. Al-Khali is like the furthest garrison from the heart of the Roman Empire. Basically, anybody who is put in charge here is basically somebody sent to exile. And Governor Cassius Ficus, who is the governor of the Roman outpost here, is in charge of this place. He comes to Al-Khali, and he hears the firstborn. And the firstborn tries to convince him to let him out. And so Cassius Ficus does all sorts of debauchery and all sorts of masochism and sacrifices and tons of deaths. He believes this entity to be Jupiter, the Roman deity Jupiter. He believes this guy's trying to get him to let him out, to have him go to Elysium so that he can rule in decadence for eternity. And technically, he did get his reward, because when the firstborn gets released and then 7 Roman legionnaires who were psychics seal him away again, he takes part of Rome. Cassius Ficus is part of Rome, part of Al-Khali, and he brings it into his domain. And that is where Cassius Ficus rules for 2,000 years, because in this plane, in the firstborn's domain, time does flow, but people don't really die. I don't even think they age, but they can be, like, corrupted. Like, if you stabbed somebody in the heart, they wouldn't die. They'd just be stabbed in the heart. They'd be living with that pain. I don't think the wound would even heal. That's just the hell world that this place is. It's so very well designed. It's so dark in the atmosphere. And the mind of Clive Barker with this place is just... I cannot give it enough credit. I cannot do enough credit telling you how interesting this place is. Because the game can't really do it either. I had to use my own imagination to fill in the blanks of what I was seeing to try to make it sound far more interesting. And it was. It was far more interesting thinking about this world, imagining what Clive Barker's actual reality here was, out of the limitations of the game and the jankiness of the game, the actual world that you're looking at here. It was far more interesting to me than the actual game itself, I'll give you that. But yeah, after the Rome 2,000 years, well, not really 2,000 years, about 1,000 to 1,300 years later, in the 1300s, another crusade happens during the Middle Ages. A crusade happens in Al-Khali. There's a big fight. One of the bishops of the church sends an army of children, 10,000 children, into Al-Khali to fight the occupying army. I don't know who was occupying Al-Khali at the time that this child army was. I think, I don't know, if they mention who was in charge here, I don't remember the name. Either way, there was an entity in charge of the city that the Crusaders wanted to take out, and they realized that this occupying force would not attack children. So this bishop raised an army of like 10,000 children to attack this occupying army, and they would not harm the children, so the children slaughtered them, and then the bishop slaughtered the children. A very dark thing, but it's the influence of the firstborn seeping into this bishop's mind and made him do this thing and try to get him into some sort of eternity. He believed he would find eternity in this terrible dark act, and so he sacrificed the lives of 10,000 child soldiers to release the firstborn again, and then 7 crusader warrior psychics had to seal the firstborn away again. It's always 7, and most of that 7 gets defeated in some way, but at least 1 makes it to the end to seal the firstborn away again. And then the next time the firstborn almost escapes is during the height of World War II. A psychic in the Nazi party, I can't remember her name, it's German something, Helmschlatter, something. But Helena Helmschlatter, something like that. But she's one of the Nazi party. She's a psychic. She gets called to this location. She hears the firstborn. She gets corrupted by it. And this big slaughter happens here. She slaughters a lot of her own people as well. And this awakens the firstborn. Usually a sacrifice of a ton of people blood. Is what awakens the firstborn. A lot of psychic blood, really. And so the firstborn awakens again, and then a British commando unit team is sent in, a psychic commando unit, and they are able to reseal the breach again. But this time, there's a new member of the Department of Occult Warfare known as Arnold Leach, who joined the department in the late 60s. And he got very interested in the occult and the cult of the firstborn. He learned about all of that stuff and learned about what happened during World War II. And so he decided to form his own cult. And he sent them into the breach. He sent them into Al-Khali to try to awaken the firstborn again, ahead of schedule. And so now we are in the present day, and you, Jericho team, in the Department of Occult Warfare, which is a very secretive sect that doesn't exist technically, officially, and you're a commando unit of psychics, 7 psychics, sent into the city to try to seal the breach yet again. And the leader is Ross, who you play as during the first chapter. And you go into the city, and the first cycle is the present day, the first era, the outermost layer of the city is present day. You get to meet one of the people who was stationed there, who has history with Rollins, and then Arnold Leach gets in there. He kills the lady friend of Rollins, and then he kills Ross, and this opens the breach. And so the rest of Jericho team enters the breach in chasing of Arnold Leach further into the, as they call it, the Pyxis. That's Pyxis, Pyxis, the box, into the firstborn's domain. And the first thing they realize when they enter this breach is that the tech is a lot older now. It looks kind of like World War II era. Cole explains that it's now the 1940s, or Germans are hanging out, and then they find some British commandos, and the British guy is a dude who served with Rollins' father. Rollins is like 67 years old, so his father would be a lot older than that, and so you're definitely learning that this is the World War II era. And these British commando guys, they look pretty alright, but they've been here for a while. They've been here for 60 years. And you could tell that the longer you stay in the box, you can't escape. Once you get in, you can't get out. Time flows, but you don't exactly age, and you don't exactly die unless the firstborn devours your soul. If the firstborn chooses to just leave you be, you will live for as long as the firstborn's domain exists. And well, let's try to explain how living it means in the Pyxis, in the box, in Al-Khali, in the firstborn's domain. If, for example, somebody were to remove your legs and the wounds don't close and you don't die, and 2,000 years pass, you would be in pain for 2,000 years, constantly bleeding from a wound that will not close, and unable to die. So the basic logic here is the further into the breach, the further back in time you go, the more insane these people are going to be, because they're going to be spending centuries, thousands of years here. They're going to be completely far gone. And that's basically what happens. World War II era, the British commando units, they've been here for about 60 years, but they're alright. They're a little bit crazed, but they're still working on the good guy side. They're going to help you out. They're pretty alright. They help you take out the German soldier, the Nazi lady, and they take her, they help you take her out, and you go further into the breach. Then the next stage of the breach is the 1300s. And if the World War II era of the Alkali was pretty normal looking, there's some power lines and some tech laying about, some crates, some supplies, and some bunkers, some World War II pillboxes, and soldiers with guns that are all corrupted and look like dark little demonic soldiers on Helmletter's side. Well, when you get into this next stage, this next phase, this is the Crusaders' time. You're gonna see this massive, huge medieval castle, this massive fortress built by the Crusaders, and you immediately see that they're at war with some dark, devilish entity, this dark force, these demonic little, and you get to see that it's raining constantly. It's raining blood. This is like a Slayer album atmosphere, man. It's raining blood. You see rivers of red through the muck. The ground you're standing on isn't actually dirt, it is flesh. You're standing on melted, desiccated flesh of tons of people that have just become the surrounding atmosphere. It is a horrifying little atmosphere. You're walking, you're feeling the squishy splashes of your footsteps as you're walking over the rot and decay. It's a very bad hellscape, man. It's whoo! I loved the atmosphere here. This is some really good storytelling. And you get to see that these giant behemoth skeletons rotting the landscape, and you wonder, what are these things? Who made this? This is straight out of a fantasy novel. What is this? The corpses of dragons? What? And then you get to fight one of them. This huge little hulking behemoth is made of the fused together components of tons and tons of bodies claimed by the firstborn. When somebody dies and the firstborn decides, I want to claim this body, he's going to claim it, and you are going to basically exist to serve the firstborn. And if the firstborn wishes to combine tons and tons of bodies into a new creature, it can do this in its domain. And that's what this big, huge, hulking creature that you're going to fight in the Crusader era is this big hulking thing. And if you use Abigail's sniper scope to zoom in and see this thing, you could see that it is made out of the components of human flesh. You could see hands sticking out. Sometimes they might even still be moving. You can see eyes poking out, skulls. It is terrifyingly grotesque to look at. And you wonder, are those things still alive? It's been centuries. Have they been existing in this torment for all that time, unable to really pass on or find peace or oblivion even? You're just stuck in that state of being without really having a body to have any control. It is a nightmarish thing to think about, and the atmosphere of the game as you explore the surroundings makes you think about this. It makes you wonder what's going on with these people. Because you could see a lot of people stuck and chained on walls. They're still moving. They look like corpses, but they're living, moving corpses. They groan. They're moving around the ground, and they've been like that for 700 years. Not even 700 years. Yeah, actually about 7 to 800 years, yeah. It's 1300 and then the 2000s. Yeah, they've been around for a long time. It's just, eventually you meet one of the Crusaders, one of the 7 warriors, who, Sir Grey, I forget his full name, and he helps you get into the fortress, into the big Crusader palace that they built in the ruins of Alkali to fight off the demonic hordes. And he basically betrays you because Arnold Leach has convinced him that he is the Archangel Gabriel, and so Sir Grey betrays you. Sir Grey is the only one that kind of looks normal. You know, he kind of looks like a normal human. But he's also lost his mind from spending 700 years in this hell world, so he's mistaken this horrifying-looking creature to be the Archangel Gabriel. It's crazy. And so you get betrayed. You get betrayed by him, and you're sent down to the big dungeons of the medieval castle. And yes, the design, the backgrounds are just one big dungeon hallway, but it at least looks different from the World War II bunkers and hallways. But yeah, the limitations of the game and of the engine and of the graphics, the really does put a damper on the effect of the atmosphere the game is trying to have. But if you have a strong enough imagination, then you could probably infer what was intended to be shown here. And the intention, I do hear, I do see, I do feel, I do hear it. The atmosphere could have been a whole lot better. This game really needed about a year or two more polish to polish it up, to make it look better, to add better sound. The sound needed some extra oomph, but the music was pretty fun, especially around this era. You could hear the cries of children in these dungeons, and these are the spirits of the children that the bishop sacrificed to awaken the firstborn. Their souls haunt these dungeons as you're trying to reunite with your lost squad mates. And you eventually do reunite with them, you find them, and then you get to fight the bishop, who has been corrupted and has been driven mad by his desire for penance for what he has done. He has been trapped here for 700 years, and now the souls of the children are attacking him as well. And it's a pretty good boss fight. It's a pretty good story. It's annoying gameplay-wise, but story-wise, I liked it a lot. Gameplay-wise, though, no, it's very annoying. When the boss, he has this force field, he's impenetrable, but the ghosts of the children will eventually cause his force field to be broken down. And once he loses his force field, you have to have your squad hide. But you can't really command your squad to hide somewhere. So most of them are just going to be standing out in the open. And then the boss is going to do this big explosion, AoE damage. And if anybody who isn't behind cover gets hit by it, they're going to go down in one hit. So you're going to have to hope Rollins is somewhere behind cover so that he can go out and heal them. Otherwise, you're going to have to go out and heal them. And then, after he does this big AoE damage, he is vulnerable for a short while. So you can go in there and unload with a weapon like Abigail Black's grenade launcher. That's a pretty good one to deal damage with. Delgado's minigun is also a good one to do damage with. I stuck primarily with Cole, because I wanted to use the time slowdown temporal loop so that I can get a couple more clips of damage onto him before he puts his force field back up. But you could use anyone, really. I was using primarily, the characters that I used primarily for most of the game were Black, Delgado, and Church. Those are the three that I thought were the best ones in the game, and they're the best ones to use. Rollins is just there to heal you. He's just there to heal you. Cole is good for certain segments, for certain enemies, for certain boss fights, and one of them is coming up. After you finally defeat the bishop, you open the next section of the breach, and you jump in there, and the architecture changes again. It's no longer raining blood, it's no longer a hell world, it's more of order. Decadent order. You're in the decadent order of the decay of Rome, under the corrupt rule of Governor Cassius Ficus. And he has been ruling this quiet little secluded isolated section of Rome for the past 2,000 years. Nobody here is sane. They've been here for 2,000 years in this purgatory of decadence and orgies and cannibalism and self-mutilation. It's a hell world. It's terrible. It's meant to make you feel sick when you look at these creatures, especially when you look at Cassius Ficus. He is the embodiment of gluttony and greed and even sloth. He has had statues made of gold of him made and dotted around the bathhouses and the palaces that you get to explore. There is no sign of Alkali's original architecture here. The pompousness, the the pride and gall of Rome has taken over and has consumed the architecture that originally made up Alcali. Alcali was only like, what, 3,000 years older than the Roman civilization that took over this place. So you probably should have seen some ruins of Alcali. In the outermost layer of Alcali, you do see the original Sumerian ruins. But the further in you go, you get to see how, since the Templars of the Crusades in the 1300s have had 700 years to be in this little layer of Alcali in this hell world, they built these massive palaces. They built this stuff. They took all that time to make it their own place, basically. And it has had some decay and ruin and rot as well. There are ruins. And when you finally get to Rome, you see that the place has not been kept well. So, for a while at least, the place looked nice and beautiful and pretty, and then things fell very fast into Roman decadence and rot. The whole place reeks of beauty and rot at the exact same time. And I love that design. I love that atmosphere. When you get to the Roman bathhouses, you get to see the shining marble that has been marred and imperfectionized by splatters of dried bile and muck and blood and vomit. It looks disgustingly beautiful because the beauty of Rome is there, but the decadence of the governor Cassius Ficus and his terrible rule for the past 2,000 years, you get to see that the Roman baths, the pools of water, have been replaced by bile and blood and muck and disgust. The smell is probably absolutely terrible, but thankfully it's a video game, so you don't have to smell that. Oh man, I'm so glad that I didn't know those smells would probably be absolutely horrible, or absolutely horrifying. It would be the worst kind of hell imaginable. I wouldn't be surprised that anybody's left sane. Eventually, you get to see one of the 7 Roman legionaries, one of the 7 centurions, who tried to stop Cassius Ficus and stop the Firstborn's awakening. And they do manage to stop him, but after the 2,000 years that they were stuck here, because that's the thing that they don't tell you. When you go in and you stop the Firstborn, that's great, but you can't leave the Pixis. You can't leave. So you've been stuck here. These guys have been stuck here for 2,000 years. So Cassius Ficus has had 2,000 years to capture these 7 centurions and subject them to the worst absolute tortures imaginable. And you meet the last of the 7 centurions who's been crucified and left as a warning to future squads of psychics trying to stop the Firstborn's awakening, that this guy can't even speak English. He speaks Latin and all that stuff, so you're gonna need Jones to translate for him. So he touches the centurion's leg and brings the centurion back to sanity, and the centurion explains to you what's been going on. Then this happened previously in the Crusaders section of the Pixis as well. You find one of the 7 Templars who has been driven mad through pain and torture in the dungeons, and you needed Jones to basically bring him temporarily back to sanity so he could explain to you what's going on. And so you do that. The Templar explains to you, and the Centurion explains to you what's been going on, and that you have to stop Cassius Ficus to get to the next section of the breach, to get to the Sumerian area. And so you travel through the decadence and decay of Rome, and then meet Cassius Ficus, and holy crap, he looks horrible. He is vile. He is fat and rotten. He doesn't even wear clothes anymore. This man is disgustingly vile and ugly, and you have to take him down. You gotta bring him down. He captures you, he throws you into the Colosseums. You get to have a Colosseum section. The soundtrack for this area is actually very good. The Colosseum soundtrack. Definitely Google this. Clive Barker's Jericho Colosseum. You're gonna find it. Listen to that. It's a very good, haunting music, haunting chanting. It's just a very good atmosphere. Very good atmosphere. And it's in this section that you're going to need coal for. You're going to be fighting this giant hulking behemoth called a gladiator, and he's decked out in armor. He's impervious to all damage except for one tiny spot on his back, but he's not going to let you hit it. So you're going to need to use Cole's temporal loop to slow down time so that you can run around to the gladiator's back and shoot at his back until he goes down, because that's his weak point. That's the one area that you can do damage on. You have to hit his weak point. And so Cole's going to be needed here, and once you take him down, you get to go to the next section, and you fight Cassus Vicus. Cassus Vicus boss fight is okay. He's going to open up his stomach and let his bile and putrid insides spray at you like a red crimson fire hose. It's disgustingly horrifying. And that's his only point when he's vulnerable too. So he has to open up his insides, and you have to risk being sprayed by this crap so that you can have Abigail Black is the best one to use here. You have her fire her grenade launcher into that open stomach of Cassus Vicus, and then you'll be able to take him out. You will take him out, and then you'll be able to go into the next section of the breach, which is the Sumerian era, 3000 BC. And finally, you have come to the city the way it was built back in 3000 BC. These people have had 5,000 years of rule. The Firstborn has taken control of this place. It is beautiful, but it is also dark. And unfortunately, in this section of the game, the ending was rushed to no end. It was very rushed. It's nothing but a boss rush, really. You don't really even get to meet Ereshkigal, which is unfortunate, because Antadorunu, which is one of the 7 psychics who stopped the Firstborn, the first time you get to meet him, he explains to you what's going on here. He mentions Ereshkigal. He mentions how Ereshkigal awakened the Firstborn. Ereshkigal should still be in this city. Ereshkigal should still be hanging around in this city. That should have been a boss fight. That was scrapped. I don't. You never got to do it. Unfortunately, it's very sad. But I would have really liked to have had this ending changed. Is when you finally get to the Firstborn, Cole and Jones are immediately killed. That's very sad. I actually grew pretty attached to Cole. Cole's character was very vulnerable, but she was very attached to Ross, and it was just very sad to see what happened to her and Jones. Both of them were the closest to Ross, the character, the main character that you play as. He's voiced by Steve Blum. He's excellent in this game. But they die immediately for no reason, and then the remaining 4 get to fight this boss fight. It's a pretty basic, bland boss fight. He's gonna absorb one of the special powers of each of the 4 remaining characters, so you just have to use your special power against him, and that's it. He's gonna take the remaining 4's powers, so you use your powers against him 4 times, and then that's it. The boss fight's over. And then Ross points to the pools, points to the waters, and says, "Get out!" And then so the remaining 4 members of Team Jericho, Rollins, Delgado, Abigail Black, and Billy Church, escape, and they swim up, out, down, but down becomes up, and then they break free from the surface of the water, and then it cuts immediately to credits. There's no aftermath, there's no nothing. It just cuts to credits. And we never got a sequel to this. This game wasn't really positively received. It didn't sell well. It didn't do well critically, rating-wise, Metacritic score and all that crap. It didn't do well at all. So naturally, there was no sequel. So we never really got to see what Clive Barker's true vision for this story was going to be. We never really got to see Jericho 2, Jericho 3. This could have been like the Fear trilogy. Well, Fear 3 wasn't that great, but Fear 2 was really fun. I really liked the Fear trilogy. I really enjoyed them, and this was right up my alley. Although I think the Fear games play a lot better, they control a lot better. I think Doom 3 controls a lot better than Jericho, but I loved the atmosphere of Jericho. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the story. I loved the characters. I loved all of that stuff. The team that you get to control has far more personality and the potential for personality that you don't really see in most games with squads that you could control. Maybe one character has a lot of story, but in this case, all 7 people have a story, have an origin, have something that was written by an actual writer of books who actually knows how to craft a story, how to build a world, and you could see it. You could see the potential that Clive Barker put on display here, but the game itself, the actual game, was such a colossal disappointment, and I absolutely agree with that fact. If it weren't for Clive Barker's storytelling and the atmosphere of the game and how well it resonated with me, it was like playing Dante's Inferno, but with an actual Doom Guy shooter team. That's basically how it felt like. It was excellent. I loved that. I loved these scrolling further and further back through time, seeing each era of time, and the further back you go, the more time those people have spent in this place, and the more far gone mentally everybody was, until by the time you reach the Rome level, everybody has been in this decadent decay of disgust and bile for 2,000 years. It is, you believe it, you could see it all around you, and it is... When you get to the Colosseum, if you use Abigail Black's sniper scope to look around the Colosseum, you'll get to see that it is actually populated. It's not empty. It's not an empty Colosseum with Ficus just standing there. No, this place is fully populated. There are people on those stands. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of people all over in this place have been stuck and decadent and ruined for 2,000 years. It's very good atmosphere. It's a fair and fantastic atmosphere. I could not give this game enough credit. Give this right enough credit for what he made here, for this world. The game itself, though, it's disappointing. I'd say Doom 3 is a far better game for a horror atmosphere. It really is a very fun game. I love Doom 3. I know a lot of people give Doom 3 a lot of flack, but I love Doom 3. Doom 3 is fantastic, especially the PS3 version. The original PC version that came out before the PS3 version, that one has a lot of jank. You know, you can't use your gun and the flashlight at the exact same time. On the PS3 version, you can. You can use the gun and the flashlight at the exact same time. And there's a flashlight mechanic in this as well. It kind of plays a lot like Doom 3, but instead of switching guns, you have to switch characters to switch guns. But it is still very fun. It's a very fun time. There's just some things I wish would have been improved a little bit. I wish the HP or like the tankiness of the characters had some more variety. Like Delgado, he should feel like a heavy. He should feel like he could wade into enemy gunfire and tank a lot of damage and draw enemy fire away from the more breakable characters like Abigail Black and Billy Church and Cole. I just wish there was more here too. I wish you could have seen more segments of history, like maybe go to when the great Khan Empire took control of Al-Khali temporarily, or maybe even the Persian Empire when they took over temporarily. Like maybe see different sections of history and all this stuff. They didn't have the time, obviously, to do this, but they did mention that the Khans took over at one point, so imagine if this game had a couple more years of development under its belt. Maybe they could have shown you the Khan section as well. It's just, it has so much potential that I really wish this was more like a book. That this just had Clive Barker writing about it instead of just a video game that's just subpar. We just had a top-tier book. I don't know if Clive Barker doesn't have the rights to write a book adaptation of Jericho, but he really should. He really should. If he can't get the story that he wanted to tell out in a video game or movie format, he should just write it. Just write it. Write the book, man. I'd read it in a heartbeat.